What is up, folks? And we are back in the Azure arena. And today we've got a really wicked event for you. Just to check though, can people hear me? We got audio all sorted. I got super anxiety about audio because of the first time when we did the Azure arena, and it was just like, audio's working amazing. Arpia, thank you so much with the early raid. Thank you. So yeah, guys, really exciting. I'm here joined today with HolyCarp. Say hello to everyone, HolyCarp.
Hello everyone, thanks a lot for tuning in.
So if you guys just let me know if you can hear HolyCarp, and yeah, we'll get started.
Yeah, hopefully everyone can hear me.
Boom
Otherwise,
doesn't get a shout out. Oh, but he's quiet.
I mean, the name Boom by itself sounds loud.
Wait, why would Boom get a shout out? Oh, Boom! Yo! Boom dropped the 80 viewers host. Thank you so much. Really
Oh, sick.
appreciate that, dude.
Yeah, thanks, Boom. Definitely worthy of the shout out.
So stream's saying you're a little bit quiet, so I don't know if you can turn your mic up a little bit.
I don't really have any settings on this mic. I don't know if there's anything I can do.
All right, I've turned you up to max, so you just have to
Yeah,
deal with that, guys.
I guess you could bring yourself down slightly, and then everyone else can turn up, I guess.
Thank you so much, Boom and Arpia. I really appreciate that. So, guys, without further ado, we are here today with HolyCarp, the UK's and arguably one of the best Ivy players in Europe, but certainly the UK's number one Ivy player. And he's going to be dropping us the knowledge today, all about Ivy. So, for those of you who are new to the Azure Arena, well, the lore is that the Azure Arena is basically Nightmare's kind of training ground where he trains up all his malfested soldiers. And we've had a few of those soldiers on the show previously with first to tens, and we've got one final first to 10 for you next week. But today is all about Ivy. So, HolyCarp, before we get started, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? I don't know. Tell
Yeah,
everyone your
sure.
name and a little bit about you.
Yeah, HolyCarp, and I mean, I think you've already given me the best introduction I could ask for, already saying that I'm the UK's strongest Ivy. I'll take that. But yeah, I've been playing SoulCalibur competitively since SoulCalibur 5. Started off as a Pyro Omega player back then, so basically like Sophitia, but more angry. And then I moved on to Ivy as of SoulCalibur 6, and I've been playing her, well, since release. Just felt like I really connected with this character. There's just so much fun stuff about her, so many dirty tricks, so much disgusting tech that I'm pretty keen to share with everyone else. So that's why I'm here, to just tell you all about how this character works, hopefully how to fight her a little bit, and yeah, let you know what's going on in my mind when I'm using her in tournaments.
Wicked. So just to let you guys know in chat, if you've got any questions that you want to ask HolyCarp, I'll be looking through the chat throughout the stream. Tag East London Fighters in the chat, and I'll be able to hopefully pick up as many questions as possible. But we have got 10 questions planned for HolyCarp today, so hopefully it'll be good. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Sounds good to me.
So HolyCarp, I guess maybe as an introduction to Ivy, can you tell us a little bit about the character and just generally speaking, how does she play?
So Ivy's quite a difficult one to explain because she's got such a huge toolkit that she's capable of playing her pretty much however you want. So I wouldn't want to like say this is how Ivy should be played because I wouldn't really want anyone to feel there is kind of a mold to how you play her. She's
Mm,
capable of a lot of things. But I'd say if we're talking about like fighting game archetypes in general, the two things she falls under most categorically would probably be a zoner primarily. So she's excellent at just keeping people out with these long range pokes in general. Um, so her overall game plan from a distance is generally to zone the opponent because she's just got possibly the best range in the game, or at least the
yeah.
most screen presence, I would argue, because she has moves for pretty much any position on the screen.
Okay, one second. So
But
guys in the chat are saying volume really needs to be up. Okay, one second. Let me try it from Discord and see if that helps at all.
yeah, okay.
So it kind of looks like we're at max volume, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if there's anything I can do. Um,
Guys, any suggestions for how we can up HolyCarp's volume so you can hear him properly? He's max on Discord. He's max on. Right click on the picture. Right. Okay. User volume. He's max volume on the stream as well. All right. So let's try this. Right click on his name and you can up his volume. So that, did I just do it? Did I just do it? Should we try that? HolyCarp?
yes. Has that made a
Ah,
difference at all? Oh, has it?
that sounds louder. Is that
Is it
louder for you
actually?
guys as well? That is
Hey,
better.
RPA says it's better. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, guys. Really appreciate your help. Awesome. And I just learned something new as well. Okay,
Nice.
brilliant. So you were talking about how Ivy is a zoning character. So you were using her, was it 4B that you were just using there?
Yeah, that's 4B. That's probably a longest range move. Well, joint with that, but it's not really a zoning tool. I'll go through all her moves in detail later, but
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I was just primarily saying that Ivy falls into the zoning archetype at long range. But then also she's a bit unique in that once you get a little bit closer, she plays a bit more like a grappler because she's got two of, I'd say, the strongest command grabs in the game. She's got Summon Suffering, which you just saw, and that's completely unbreakable.
Yeah.
And she's got Calamity Symphony, which is breakable in theory, but in practice is usually a different case. And as you saw, that was 80 damage. It's such a high damage grab.
Yeah.
So so it's quite a unique game plan, I'd say, in terms of the fact that when you're far away, she's primarily playing as a zoner with these long range pokes like the one you pointed out. Um, whereas up close, she plays more like almost more like Astaroth. You want to be grabbing them, and then when they start ducking, start using Bull Rush. You know, she's basically a typical grappler once you get up close.
So that raises quite an interesting question then, because she's got these kind of dual personalities, like almost like split personality, in a way. She's a zoner on one hand and a grappler on the other. So would you say that there are any ways that these two qualities and strengths of Ivy kind of work together?
Definitely. I always think in fighting games in general, opposing playstyles kind of complement each other. They enable the other. So broadly speaking, I think in SoulCalibur 6, if you can put on a really good offensive game, if you can make your opponents sweat and panic and make them want to press buttons, once you shift to defense mode, they'll start taking risks. You've just basically opened them up with your offense.
Mm.
So those two things complement each other. And I think in a very similar way, zoning and grappling kind of complement each other. Because if you're at full screen, constantly making your opponent play this guessing game of like, how the hell do I get in? Every time I move, I'm just getting hit by these moves. You know, if you make that the topic of conversation, if you make that the thing they're most concerned about, once they finally do get in, they're not really mentally prepared for how to deal with this completely different grappling game. And in
Okay.
general, when you're playing the mid range, Ivy kind of gets a bit of a choice of because she controls the mid range so well, she gets the choice of do I want to keep zoning them? Do I want to keep backstepping all day and like throwing out these zoning pokes? Or do I want to control the pace of the match and say, no, I'm going in now? And then you just start running in and running like whatever mix up game you want to run
So
as a
that
grappler.
so that change of pace is obviously like can be really helpful when you're in a match against higher level players, and oftentimes, I remember when we were at Versus Fighting this year, the piece of advice that Keeve was giving people is changing pace and changing your
Mm.
style of play can be really important in terms of just the general mind games and general mix-ups. So it seems like that's a particular strength that Ivy has, being able to switch in between two different play styles, two different paces, two different speeds, and two different ranges.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And that's some really sound advice from Keeve in general, because not only is it a very strong way to play Ivy, it's also a strong way to fight against her. Because so much of her game plan is all about, as you said, controlling the pace, controlling the spacing between the two characters. So often what you'll find is the person winning this matchup is the person who remains in control, the person who knows when to switch
Mm.
to aggression, when to switch to defense. If the Ivy player knows when is a good spot for zoning them and trying to make them feel a bit impatient, and when is a good time to throw out some grabs that they're not expecting.
Okay, so with all that in mind, then I think that's quite a really good overview of Ivy. Obviously, we'll be going into a lot more depth into her kind of toolkit, play style, things like that. But I guess off the cuff, what kind of person do you think would want to play Ivy? I know chat will probably have some opinions about this, but as a fighting game player, or maybe as an individual, what kind of person do you think will want to play Ivy?
I mean, I feel like what kind of person wouldn't want to play Ivy? Like, for starters, she's just strong as hell, and let's face it, she is a badass. But in terms of her actual play style, I suppose it takes quite a lot of patience to play Ivy, and you also need, or at least it'll help if you've got a degree of creativity that you want to apply to your play style. Because Ivy's got such a wide variety of tools in her tool set that she really opens up so many different types of plays that you can make. Like as I've said, she's got these two opposing styles of zoning and grappling. She even does stance pressure as well.
Mm.
I'd say if you are quite interested in almost being challenged by your character, not just in terms of her complex game plan, but also in terms of execution as well, because she is quite a high execution character with all of these just brains. So, yeah, someone who wants a bit of investment with their character, um, is willing to be challenged by the character, and is also capable of great evil, because
Do you
let's
know what,
face
Carp?
it.
Though I have to say, the first time I met you, I didn't look at you and think, all right, that guy, yeah, he's capable of great evil. But now that you've said that, I know to watch my back when you're around.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this game's just an outlet for all of that evil. That's why I've crossed my evil life.
Okay, great. So we've kind of covered some of her general strengths. So how would you summarize her general weaknesses before we go into any great depth in any particular area? Generally speaking, what are Ivy's weaknesses?
To be honest, I think this is a character with very few weaknesses, at
Let's
least
just
nothing
pause
that's
there. Let's
particularly
just pause there,
exploitable.
guys. You heard it here. HolyCarp said a character with very few weaknesses. Okubo,
Oh,
take
absolutely.
notes. Okubo,
Yeah.
take note.
No, let me keep being carried by my character. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've never hidden the fact that I think she's always been top three. I think every iteration of the game. I mean, I'm biased because I love Ivy and I think she's amazing, but I've always thought this character is top three.
Fair enough.
So, but in terms of weaknesses, she does have things that she doesn't do as well as the rest of the cast. So I would, in this game where everyone is so ridiculously strong, I think having things that you don't do as well as some others is a weakness in itself, to be honest.
So what do you think those
So
areas would be?
I'd say the main thing is that she struggles. Well, she doesn't struggle. She isn't as efficient at a low risk poking kind of game. She definitely has one, and she can do it without taking big risks. But compared to characters with a 2A, that's the first move that comes to mind. So most characters, I can show you just with Cervantes, I'm sure
Yeah.
you're familiar. 2A, it's just a fast poke. It's usually I-12, that's the universal standard. And it lets you take your turn back because it's plus on hit. Whereas Ivy, she doesn't have a tool like that. Her 2A is this, which is a very good move in and of itself. But it's I-16, 4 frames slower than your standard 2A, and it's -2 on hit, so you don't take your turn back when you use this move. So she doesn't have these sort of cover-all pokes in the same way that some other characters do. She doesn't have an I-12 special mid interrupter like a 2A. She doesn't have a really brainless AA,
Mm.
in that her AA is
Yeah, her
unsafe on
AA.
block.
How fast is her AA?
It is I-12, so she's got a fast AA, but it's -12 on block. It doesn't jail, so you can duck the second hit and punish it.
Mm.
And there is a mix-up in that she can do AK, but again, that doesn't jail. So, and it's not a combo on normal hit. It's only combo on counter hit.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have like the sort of high utility 2A, AA. Her BB, most characters have like I-14 BBs that are plus on hit. She has an I-16 BB that's negative on hit, and the second hit can be GI'd if you block the first. So she doesn't have these like really basic brainless autopilot pokes to the same extent a lot of other characters do.
Cervantes being a typical example who you've got on the screen now. I mean, his 2A is like +6 on hit, and then his Well Rising K is +6 on hit as well, and obviously his
Completely
I-12.
safe.
So yeah, and completely safe. So she hasn't got those kind of tools, which is fair enough, because actually how she's going to be scary up close is with her command grabs, CS, SS, and then mixing up with her really good mids as well. So one question that I want to ask then is, we've kind of touched on her long range game. Obviously, she's arguably the best zoner in the game, perhaps kind of jostling with Mina, and she's got a really strong up close game, not in terms of pokes, but in terms of can you tell us how Ivy does in the mid range, or rather, where do you want Ivy to be if you're playing against Ivy? Oh, Carp, we might have lost you. Have we lost Carp? Can't hear Carp. Ah, where's Carp gone? Carp died. Carp's left us. Let's have a look. Carp, where have you gone? Un moment, guys. Un moment. He died by an online 2A plus G. Oh dear. All right, we're just getting this set up for you again, guys. Give us 1 second. Carp CS'd himself and got deleted.
Am I back? Have I
Yeah,
made
you're
it
back.
I made
You're
it back.
back. Can we all hear Carp?
I'm not
um,
okay.
okay, so did you catch my question? Did everyone in chat catch my question as well?
I'm not sure if I caught your question. Is
So
it basically how she plays in the mid range, or what range you want to be against her?
wait, so chat, can you hear Carp?
Is
The
Zero
Ivy.
trolling? Guys, can you hear me? Oh, wait.
Zero, are you literally trolling out here? Is that what's happening? Guys, can we hear Carp? Can we get more yeses or nos than Zero, please? We
If the
can.
answer's
Zero's
yes, can we
memeing.
ban
Okay,
Zero?
right.
Okay.
Ban Zero.
Yeah.
Zero banned. This is
Where
why
am I?
Nightmare gets nerfed, by the way, because we have Zero. Okay, so my question was, we've spoken about Ivy's long range. We've spoken about Ivy's up close game with her grapples and the fact that she's not scary based on pokes. The fear from Ivy comes from her grapples. So can you talk to us about Ivy's mid range then? And also, can you touch on, if you're playing against Ivy, where do you actually want her on the screen?
Okay. So in terms of her mid range, I would say this is actually where the character is strongest. Because as I was saying, like at this kind of range, she's got like zoning pokes. That's just about in range.
Yeah.
And if you do anything stupid, she can launch punish you for it from the other side of the screen. But when she's at this range, she has nothing to stop you from moving. Like all her tools are linear when she's at full screen.
Yeah.
But once you get to like this kind of range, the mid range, that's when things get interesting for her. She gets like all of these step killing tools. That one being high mid, she's got low ones as well. She's got a mid, another mid. You know, she's got so many of these. The mid range is kind of where she has most control, in my opinion. So I'd say if your character doesn't control this mid range, this is where you want to spend the least time.
Okay.
because at this point she can make you feel like you can't move because she's got highs, lows, and mids that all kill step.
And she's got some new high horizontals in season 2 as well, didn't she? A4, A6.
Yeah, I really like A6 actually. It's a really good entry into a stance. So if she guesses correctly that you're going to step, you're straight into a guessing game at this point. So generally, when you're at the mid range, standing still isn't really an option either because she's got this mix up, right? She can do the mid, which lethal hits if you duck. Or she can do the
So,
low.
so can you
So,
tell us what these moves are, what the inputs for these moves are?
oh yeah, sure. That's 3B plus K for max range and 2B plus K for closer range. So I'll stand at max screen. You can see the closer range 2B plus K, see where the crater is, and then 3B plus K is slightly further away.
And obviously, for
And
people
then,
who are new to SoulCalibur as well, the two moves that HolyCarp's going through have the same startup animation, so they look very, very similar.
yeah, she sort of swings the sword into the ground. Like these two moves look pretty much identical. There's a very slight difference to them, but I'm yet to fight anyone who's super consistent on it. So if you want to try and react to it, good luck is all I'm going to say.
So
Yeah, she's got 2 different ranges of those 2 moves, and it's a complete mix-up, and she can cancel it as well just to mess with your head and then let it rip afterwards.
yeah, she can cancel both of those moves, both the throw and the mid, can't she?
So for that reason, she's got all these tools that make you stop moving at mid-range, and she's got these tools that make standing still not viable. So because of that, I would say if your character doesn't love being in this range, so if you're not playing Mina, maybe even as well, if you're not playing a character who's just really happy just sitting at the mid-range, this is not where you want to be against Ivy.
So we've covered quite a lot about spacing then. So can I ask you what your understanding of neutral game is and how Ivy plays it? Because a lot of people like use the term neutral. Oh, you're playing neutral game. And I think a lot of people interpret that term to mean whiff punishing, spacing, which are obviously like really important aspects to neutral, especially Ivy, who's really good at spacing and just maintaining space. But yeah, tell us what your understanding of neutral is.
Yeah, I mean, for me, in terms of how I define neutral, I just kind of think of it as, well, whenever neither of you has frame advantage or disadvantage. And so for Ivy in those sort of neutral states where it's not really one particular character's turn, I'd say her neutral very much depends on what range you're at.
Okay.
So if you're not up close, Ivy's neutral tends to be like keeping your arm's length and where she can handle the game quite well. So against Cervantes, I'd do that. Against most of the cast, to be honest, if I'm at this range, I want to keep you at this range. I don't want you to come any closer.
So what are her
I,
main tools for keeping characters out at this particular range?
at this kind of range, you often want to catch their approach as they walk in. If they get too reckless and just run in, she could do a B6, for example, or she can mix that up with low pokes. If she's feeling greedy, she can even just throw these out and hope to roll into them. And she's got a lot of pushback on a lot of her tools in general. So like 4B, for example, that just launches them to the other side of the stage on block. So 6-6A hold also, that's a very good zoning tool because it's a mid-horizontal that pushes you out and does a bit of guard damage as well, which all adds up. And this also does guard damage. So in terms of the neutral game when you're zoning someone, you really like... The way I think about it is I like to basically set up an obstacle course before my opponent is allowed to play SoulCalibur.
You are
And
actually evil. You
Yeah.
are evil.
This is what I'm talking about. You've got to be completely evil and shameless to play Ivy. So, they want to be in this range because you're allowed to play SoulCalibur at this range. But, like, Ivy doesn't want you to play SoulCalibur. She wants you to be it here and play the Ivy obstacle course. So, you throw out stuff like this to catch their approach, and if they block it, you win. Because the way I see zoning in fighting games in general is that they're probably going to get in, but you want them to do so at a cost. So even if they're blocking moves like this, they're doing it at the cost of their guard stamina, right? See, just those 2 moves put them up to 25%. Another, that'll be 40%. So you want them to pay some kind of price. ideally you want that price to be health. So if you're trying to make them pay the health price, you can go for moves like this and moves like this that do more damage. But you want them to use up some kind of resource getting in. You want it to be unfavourable. Even if you're across the other side of the stage, one thing that Ivy can do, which is quite cheap, is to just, if I set these to 0%, look how much meter this builds.
Wow,
Like,
and that's
it's a
just on whiff
decent
as
chunk.
well.
Yeah, so if they aren't even going to play the obstacle course, Ivy can just stand over here and slowly build up her meter. Like, and then if they do want to play the obstacle course, Ivy wants to just frustrate the opponent in
Yeah.
neutral and make them take risks that they wouldn't usually take. If you're throwing out these things, you'll make them start stepping more than they want to step because both of those moves are linear. That's one way to bypass the mix-up. And then once they're stepping, you start throwing out these and these and some of these and some of these and so on. So Ivy's neutral, I think, at mid-range is very much to frustrate the opponent more than anything and force them to take risks. But up close, I do think she generally has to be quite a lot more patient than other characters in
Yeah.
terms of neutral. Because as we spoke about, she doesn't have these really high utility tools that are just in your favour to throw out randomly. She has to make a lot of reads, and it's not a bad thing at all because when this character makes the correct read, she converts it into damage. Like if she steps something, that is a lethal hit on
Yeah.
any whiff punish. Even if she doesn't use that move, this is a good 80 damage as well. Multiple different combo routes that will do 80 damage. So this, if she ducks something, is obscene damage. This, if she ducks something, obscene damage. This, if she jumps, obscene damage. So Ivy generally wants to play quite defensively in neutral, I think.
Yeah.
Or at least up close if she feels like she's being smothered by the opponent's options.
So it kind of sounds like she's really focused on getting the opponent to hang themselves in a sense and
Yeah, I
forcing
think that's a good one.
situations where the opponent wants to do something that they probably shouldn't do because they're desperate to get in and desperate to get some damage. So I
Absolutely.
guess if you're gonna kind of think about how do you counter Ivy, it really does sound like one of the big things that I'm taking away so far is you're gonna need some patience.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you will be able to get in eventually, but at the same time you will find yourself getting zoned a lot by this character. And remember, like as I said, the mentality that I have is I'm going to let you get in eventually, but I want you to do it at a cost. You don't want that cost to be all of your health. So don't let yourself get too frustrated. You've got to have a lot of patience, accept that you will step forward and block quite a bit. You have to do low commitment approaches like a step into a side step, maybe, step duck. You can still make a few reads on your approach, but don't just completely get impatient. Like if you're playing as Cervantes, don't just randomly start throwing these out and hope something good happens. Maybe once or twice, but don't make a game plan out of it.
Yeah.
I think you've got to be fairly patient about getting in against her. And so you want generally like how to beat her, don't you? And
Well, yeah, we can get onto that. But one question that I wanted to just touch on was would you say that her neutral looks different depending on the kind of character that she's playing? So for example, Nightmare, how would neutral as an Ivy player differ to say if you were playing Xianghua or Taki?
um, I'd say that, well, with Nightmare having such long range buttons, she can't overcommit in her zoning game. Like, if we're at this kind of range and Nightmare steps, say, B6, which I'd usually want to throw out because it leads to a full combo. But against Nightmare, if he does step B6, he could challenge it. He could whiff punish with a 6xp if he's really on the ball. This move doesn't have much whiff recovery, but because Nightmare has buttons that reach that kind of range, he can challenge her for it. So against someone like Nightmare or Song Mina or Aswell, anyone with long range buttons, I can't sort of overcommit with my zoning. I've got to be a little bit more conservative with how aggressive I play the neutral at mid range. And also, every character will have certain weaknesses to certain types of moves. Nightmare's quite a good example because he's got this armor that beats, I think it's like 22 damage or more, is that right?
It's
Mids and
25
highs?
damage. Yeah.
25, okay.
Yeah, it's got a yeah.
Yeah. So that has to be a concern as well. Like, this move will get eaten up by the armor. And moves like this, they're safe to the armor, but she'll have to block a break attack bubble. So against Nightmare, she might want to catch him with some lows, because armor doesn't do anything to those. She'll use more of these. But yeah, whereas short range characters, like you mentioned, Shangua, Ivy can be a lot more obnoxious and just throw out a lot more of these zoning pokes that you can't contest at mid range.
Okay. So I guess on to thinking about countering Ivy then. What are your thoughts generally? Because it seems like she's just got such a strong package. Countering is partly based on patience, partly based on, I suppose, kind of knowing when to punish and how to punish Ivy. But would you say there's kind of just like a general game plan that you should think about or strategy you should adopt playing against Ivy?
I think it very much depends on your character and where they like to play. For most characters, their game plan will generally be to try and get up close and start pressuring her. I can't really speak for a blanket approach to this matchup because, as I said, she's got so much screen presence and so many options, and whenever she makes a correct read, it hurts. So you really do have to play against the player a lot. But one thing I'd say in general is that, like, we've talked about how this isn't the most low risk reward character. Like, there's usually a sense of risk behind what she does. Like, she can play a low risk poking game. She's got all of these safe pokes if she wants to use them. But in general, to get her big damage, Ivy is going to take a few risks. So what I would say to that is make sure you're capitalizing on every opportunity that either she gives you or that you create. So if you're up close and you think she's going to grab, so obviously you duck, make sure you use your optimal duck punishment tool. It should go without saying, but I think it's easy to forget that sometimes you end up ducking on impulse against Ivy because it just feels like the right thing to do. And then what will happen is I'll whiff a grab, and then they'll just, I don't know, they'll just wire rising K, or they'll do nothing, and then think, oh, it's my turn, I'll grab.
Grab again.
Yeah, like, that's not a punish. I could break that unless it's an Ivy mirror, then I can't break that. Ivy privilege, I guess. But if you duck a grab, you've taken such a huge risk to duck, because this thing deletes your health. That's an unseeable mid that just destroys you. And this is an unseeable mid that puts you at -12, which is a really horrible guessing game. If you've ducked against Ivy at close range and you made the right read, you sure as hell better convert that into damage.
So really being on point then. Being patient, being on point. You hear that, chat? Be patient, be on point with your punishes.
Yeah, I can get behind that. And know, like, what's unsafe on block. Like this move, for example, full crouch 1B, that's -12 on block. I know how much those words hurt to a Nightmare player.
It's like I've been stabbed in my heart.
Should have written like a blacklist of like things I'm not allowed to say streamed on this channel. But no, for everyone else, sorry, Redbean. But if you block that, use your I-12 punish. She can't get away with that for free, right? Make sure you really know this character's frame data inside out and you're able to react and punish things. Because if she ever gives you an opportunity, you have to take it, because her risk reward tends to be very skewed in terms of reward when she starts making these high damage risks. So yeah, as you said, be patient and be on point.
And I suppose as well, there's a real argument for kind of knowing what your frames are and hit playing against Ivy as well. So let's say you get an I-12 punish. Are you going to go for your I-12 punisher that leaves you kind of 0 or +2 on hit? Or are you going to go for your I-12 punisher, if you have one, that leaves you a little bit more plus on hit as well? Because you mentioned how Ivy's kind of poking game isn't the best. And so making use of your little pokes, your plus frames, I can imagine can be very useful, and kind of labbing how you can use your frames to kind of limit Ivy's options.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you need to try and keep this character honest when you play against her, because as I said, like, whenever she gets a correct read, she converts it into damage. And she's got some cool evasive tools as well. Like, she's got this 2-on-4B, which is a tech step and a tech crouch.
Yeah.
So she's got a lot of tools that can kind of say, like, screw your frame advantage, I'm just going to do something evasive. And you've got to have those sorts of things in mind. Like, you've got to be aware of, like, after my 2A, how plus am I? Am
Yeah.
I plus enough to just do this for free? In Savanta's case, yeah, he is. You know, like, you need to have a basic idea. Like, I'd say lab a lot of situations where you feel it should be your turn and see if Ivy can get out of anything that you might want to do. Like, you can't let Ivy players constantly keep stepping and try and do these 2-2-As, or constantly ducking, or constantly jumping, or constantly doing these. Yeah, it's worth knowing, like, how you can really press your frame advantage in a way that doesn't allow her to escape.
Cool. Awesome. So let's kind of summarize where we are in terms of countering Ivy, because I know that's, let's be honest, that's why most people are here. No one's here to play Ivy. Everyone wants to know how to defeat her. That's the reality. So patience when you're getting in, trying to not take too much damage getting in, knowing your punishes, knowing your frames as well, and I guess as being mindful of kind of spacing, where you want to keep Ivy, where she wants to keep you, and how to make the most out of different situations. So knowing your frame data, knowing Ivy's frame data, and maximizing those options as well. So I guess that kind of really neatly leads us onto the next question. So we were talking about an opponent taking advantage of their frames, but can you talk us through what Ivy's pressure looks like and what pressure means as kind of like a zoner grappler hybrid?
Yeah, so Ivy's pressure is generally just putting you into very uncomfortable situations. Like, as I've said, she can make you guess from pretty much any position on the screen. If she hits you with something mid-range, Ivy's pressure at this point, like after this 3A, for example,
Yeah.
will usually be... she creates a lot of three-way guessing games at mid-range, actually, in that now she can do this, or which is a 3B plus K, or a 3A plus G. And then, of course, if you try and step, she's got certain step killers that will catch you for that. So she can set up sort of... like, I want to call them 50-50s, but because those two moves can be stepped, it's kind of more like a 33-33-33, like rock,
Yeah.
paper, scissors kind of thing. So Ivy pressure is very much just putting you in an uncomfortable situation where it's her turn, she's got frame advantage, you have no options. Well, you have limited options, so you're going to have to guess what she's going to do. And the same thing applies in close range. Like, if she lands something like this, that's a plus 12 stun, so you have to guess kind of, is she going to grab you, or is she going to go for like a
So remind me, what move is this that you're using now?
This is 3A.
Okay.
It's a mid-horizontal. The only downside to it is that it's I-18, which is slower than most reliable close-range step killers. You can usually get away with like a step block against that. But it's generally her like respect my frames button.
Yeah.
If she wants to say, it's my turn, I think you're going to do something stupid, I'll just throw out one of these. Now it's definitely my turn because I'm plus 12. Ivy's pressure, I think, is often about... she just needs to create an opening for herself. She needs to make you think, make you panic, make you do something stupid so she can nail you with one of those, and then into the guessing game of like, am I going to grab? Am I going to do a mid?
Yeah.
Am I going to do something that puts me plus on block?
So just on that point, actually, so you mentioned 3A, and that would be a kind of situation where you'd force the opponent to guess. Obviously, she's plus 12. So for people who are new to playing against Ivy, what other situations do you want to look out for where she can force you into a kind of 50-50 or a 33-33 situation?
So you need to be aware of like how much frame advantage she has on most moves. Like this, for example, is negative on hit. Don't think that it's her turn after that. That's her 2A.
Yeah.
But to use plus 12 examples, she's got a few that are plus 12. She's got the 3A, which is plus 12. She's got a few on block that become plus 12. So, where's my block? So these just frames, if I can actually do them, this tutorial might be a lot of me just dropping combos. But yeah, those just frames are plus 12 on block as well. And as is, I believe this is also plus 12. The break attack from her stance.
Yeah.
That's SE 4B. Those are all situations where you just have to guess because there's not really much you can do. Like if she does one of those moves into an I-12 or well, she can't combo them into an I-12. If she does them into an I-14, you can't reversal edge out of that.
Yeah.
If she does it into an I-16, you still can't reversal edge out of that. Remember, CS is I-16, so you can't reversal edge out of that either.
So cheeky.
So yeah, so those are like the three really scary close range setups with Ivy, where you need to recognize your -12. You're gonna have to guess.
And I guess that's part of one of the things that I really like clocked onto as I started to become better at fighting games was that you see people react to things and you think they're just kind of reacting on the fly. For example, they're just ducking CS because they literally reacted, when actually more what's happening is people are recognizing certain situations and oftentimes using information that they have about, for example, what you did in that situation beforehand, and they're using that to respond as opposed to react.
Yeah, that's right. And for that reason, I'd say Ivy kind of requires quite a lot of conditioning when you play against your opponent. Or at least she becomes such a strong character if you are able to condition them.
Yeah.
If you're able to teach them that, like, they can't get away with cheeky little things like with 3A, for example, this is a good move to just keep you honest up close. If she makes you think that there's a certain situation where you have to stand still, the new conversation, the new guessing game becomes like, I'm going to throw this unblockable throw that punishes you for blocking. So that's a good point about Ivy, about everyone in general, but particularly Ivy. If she's able to condition you, she can just change the topic of conversation to something else that's just equally terrifying.
So there are a few characters in the game that get quite a lot off of punishing a whiffed grab. Raphael was one, and I don't mean to bring you back to that epic first to 10 that you had with Silas, that he
Fun.
managed to clutch out, but he was catching you there with a lot of kind of recognizing when you would go for CS, ducking, and getting a lethal hit punish on his while rising moves. So I guess, is that something that makes those sorts of characters difficult for Ivy? Are you a bit more cautious with where you place CS against those characters?
Yeah, definitely. If you've got a character with amazing duck punishment, especially if you've got a lethal hit for ducking a grab, then that's such a strong tool to have against Ivy. Because as long as you're able to do that every time you duck a grab, which Silas is able to do, then you can teach the Ivy player that it's not a safe option for them. You know, you can make it so that I'm scared to throw out those moves. So it comes back to that thing of optimally punishing everything. If you make a read on something like a ducked grab, and then take away a third of my health for it, I'm probably going to think a lot harder before I throw it out next time. So in terms of her matchups, that's definitely something that helps you have a better matchup against Ivy.
Definitely. And that whole like concept of making your opponent cautious to do something, that's the kind of ABCs of fighting game mind games, right? So if you're plus 12 and you're second guessing yourself, or do I CS, do I not, you're there, you're limited in that situation. And then at that point the opponent has an advantage in some sense.
Yeah, definitely. And as I said, like, Ivy does have a good low risk reward poking game, but it's not where she particularly excels. But if you're able to force me to just play where my reward is like just landing a 6k or like a mid-range 3A, where I'm scared to use like any of the things with risk attached to them, then obviously I get a lot less reward for it at the same time. So yeah, that's a huge part of it, just really being able to make the Ivy player aware of the risks that she's taking.
And being able to prove and show that you can punish them as well. So you mentioned that Ivy's got a new move, A6, which is a high horizontal and transitions her into her main stance, which is Serpents Embrace. So can you talk us through Serpents Embrace a little bit, like how it's used, where its utility lies?
So this is another great tool for pressure in general, because it's such a terrifying stance, especially in Season 2 now, because they've added the buff that she can now grab out of this. Like, she always had these weedy little grabs that kind of set up 50-50, but like, they were never that great.
Yeah.
But now she can do her unblockable grab from it, and like, if you're not thinking, she can surprise you with one of those, which does extra damage when it comes from Serpent's Embrace. So in general, this is such a terrifying stance to defend against. You know, when it's Ivy's turn and she's in this stance, when she's got plus frames and she's in this stance, it's very scary. Because as I showed you, there's the grabs, there's this low as well, extremely hard to react to. But if you start ducking them, she's got this really high risk, well, this really high reward, low risk mid. Which, if I could actually do it, it's yeah, I can't do it.
The funny thing is that you can always do that in a tournament.
This,
Like, I've not
just
seen
in
you drop
general,
that in a tournament.
this is how it's always been. Like even in SoulCalibur 5 days, there was this glitch where you could GI and then just guard something afterwards. And I did that all the time in tournament, but I just couldn't make it happen in training mode. I guess I need that bit of adrenaline. I need to just like something to spook me while I'm playing training mode, I guess.
Boo!
But,
Yeah.
Okay, now I can do it. Now I can do all the combos. Right.
Okay, so in terms of Serpents Embrace, what do you think are the kind of best transitions to it on block, on hit? What is your opponent wanting to look for?
Yeah, so to be honest, the main weakness of Serpents Embrace is just that it's not as accessible or as easily accessible as some other stances in the game.
Yeah.
Because once you're in it and once it's your turn, it's pretty terrifying because you've got, as I said, the grabs, you've got the mid, which is 70 damage or plus 12 on block. You've got step killers, you've got count hit fishers that will launch them if they try and press a button, and it's only 0 on block, so the pressure continues. The only downside to this stance is just being able to get into it. So, I mean, this is less true in Season 2 because you can just do that. They thought that it was a good idea to just let her
Yeah,
into this stance.
they gave them like a 214, was it 214K or something?
214K, yeah.
Oh my
it just goes
God.
straight into the stance. Yeah, this seems like a good idea.
Hey, you know why Ivy really struggles is getting into Serpent's Embrace, where she now has CS and SS. So you know what we're going to do? We're just going to make it easier for her to get into that stance.
Yeah, I feel like that's been a trend with Season 2 in general. It's like, oh, remember that one reason you don't hate, like, that one reason you can stomach fighting this character.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gone now. This character's...
And I think I definitely empathize with what you mentioned about Ivy's stance transitions, especially on block. Outside of her kind of soul charge, 66KK, Nightmare and other characters can quite easily blow up her transitions on block.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of the gimmicky ones are, well, as I said, they're gimmicky and they'll get blown up on block.
214B into Serpent's Embrace. Why do people do that?
It's pretty good. It's on hit. I believe it's a -4 entry into Serpent's Embrace. But because it creates all of this distance, it doesn't feel like -4 to the opponent.
I see.
Your 2A is not an option here. It's just going to whiff straight in front of me. And then if I did this, I would whiff punish that 2A.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why people do 214B into it. Because even though it's negative on hit, there's enough spacing that it kind of creates not a bad guessing game for her. She's able to move as well. If she wants to be defensive in this stance, she can move about and try and cause a whiff. And this movement could be her buffing or grabbing, you know.
Look at that, guys. Look at that. Why? Why?
Yeah, this is a thing now. Yeah. But yeah, there are some good transitions into this stance. I think notably 6BA is a very good transition because it is +4 on block into Serpent's Embrace. And the reason you can't spam this is because you can duck the second hit if you block the first. And she can mix you up by doing 6BB as well. That'll catch you if you try and duck.
So that's quite an important point, actually, for people who are wanting some tips for countering Ivy. So 6BA, really good stance transition on block. But as you can see there, the second hit is a high. It doesn't jail, so you can duck it, guys. Duck it.
Yeah, but when this happens, don't duck it. Definitely don't duck it. Because that's... So yeah, other than Soul Charge, it's not a bad idea to duck. It's still a guessing game, but you'll take only 18 damage.
And so, sorry, 6BB, what's the frame data on that? Is it plus on hit?
It is plus on hit. I can't remember the numbers offhand, but it is plus on hit.
That's alright, we've got
Oh, yeah, you've got the frame data up,
We've
haven't
got
you?
frame data. So what am I looking
Hey,
for? 6BB
that's what we want.
plus 6. Not bad.
+6, yeah,
For
it's
for a
really good.
guessing game in that kind of situation as well. And obviously it's got a bit of pushback as well. So that's quite a
Hmm.
good situation for Ivy.
Yeah. One tip I would give about this tool, which you can't always use if the Ivy player cottons on, but you can attempt to GI both hits, both versions. If that makes sense. So if you block 6B,
Yeah.
you can GI the second hit of that, and if she does that, you'll just stand block it, and the GI won't come out.
Okay.
That's not a bad answer. But if you try and do that, this is a finish. Like she just does single B into 4B8, and then you lose like 60 to 70 of your health. Or she could do
She's
like
got lots of
6B
options,
into...
Ivy.
Yeah, would you believe it?
Would never have guessed that this character has loads of options for different situations.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's what makes her so hard to fight. You need she just demands so much matchup knowledge in general.
yeah.
We just talked for like 2 minutes about 6BA and 6BD. This is just one of her many strings that she has. So that's what people struggle with, I think, a lot, is just the amount of knowledge that she demands from you.
So in terms of other stance transitions, so we know to be aware of 6BA, 214B. Are there any other key ones that we should be aware of?
Um, as far as I can think of, when she's not got meter, when she's not soul charged,
Yeah.
there aren't too many others that you really need to respect besides 6BA on block. And you can react to this and just hit her out of it. But yeah, that's a cheeky little one. If you're not ready for it, just doing 214K to go straight into it. Another cheeky one is that she can go from Spiral Lust into Serpents Embrace. So what she could do is she could hit you with this low, full crouch 3B, and then go into Serpents Embrace from that. And that's quite a legit one, I think, because if you try and act too quickly, you could just do the second hit and launch you.
Ah, cool. So that kind of moves us on really swiftly onto Spiral Lust then. So can you walk us through that stance?
There's not too much to worry about with Spiral Lust. It's really just a vertical that becomes unblockable if she charges it for long enough. And full crouch 3B is the most notable thing that transitions into it. So the main thing to watch out for is just that she can cancel it into Serpent's Embrace, which is one of those sort of mental frames sort of guessing games, where if you try and interrupt her, you will interrupt her. But if you're there waiting for this hit, then she can probably get away with doing the transition into something fast. Like this would counter hit you quite easily.
And then obviously, as you mentioned before, that Serpents Embrace, is it K? You're getting launched on counter hit.
Yeah, it's quite a good launcher as well. If I set them to counter hit, so she can do the JS. Well, she can. I can't.
Can we send chat? Can you send HolyCarp your energies?
Well, I did it once. That counts. I didn't even do the combo that time. But yeah, she's got easy mode combos as well. She can do that to reset the range as well. Even if you come out of the stance, she's still got ways of continuing the combo.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's part of what makes Serpent's Embrace very threatening. Because if you try and challenge it, she does also have ways of fishing for counter hits. If you block, she has grass.
Yeah, because when you play Ivy, like just random Ivy players on ranked, you'll see them do Serpents Embrace K over and over again, and that's exactly why, because it's good on block. On if you get counter hit and someone tries to interrupt, boom, launched.
Yeah. And also, for most characters, if they reversal edge this, and she does the hold version, you can like hit them out of it. I think Samantha's is an example. So I'll set it up now. Wait, that probably won't work actually. Let's do movement 1, stand guard, movement 2, reversal edge, normal. Hopefully this will work. Oh, I didn't work on Samantha's, that's a shame. Yeah, against a lot of characters, she can just do that to interrupt the reversal edge.
Oh wow, okay. But I
it's
guess
the
as
same.
well, a lot of
Oh,
characters
yeah,
had
she's
their.
fine.
Oh, here we go. That
Yeah.
that wins. A lot of characters' reversal edges were buffed in season 2. I don't remember if Cervantes was one of those characters, but a lot. I think Talim, for example. Why? Why? Can I just hold on? Let's just pause on Ivy for a second. Why was Talim's reversal edge given 2 extra frames of why
Oh,
of
so they actually did
startup?
speed it up.
They
Oh,
sped it
that's
up by 2
disgusting.
frames.
Oh, I missed that one. I was looking at all her new moves, and I was like, oh, okay, I think I can handle this. She's got some annoying stuff, but everything else is still the same. I didn't even notice the reversal edge thing.
Yeah, she's got like reversal edge cancels, and you know what we're gonna do with that? We're gonna make the reversal edge faster. We're gonna make the whole move faster. We're gonna make the cancels better.
Yeah, okay, I've just moved Talim up like 10 places in my mental tier list right now. It's not
So, like a
okay.
lot of situations where characters couldn't reversal edge. So, for example, Nightmares, Night Terror Charge, 6/6 KK. There's a gap in between the 2 hits. Usually you can step or 2A, but now some characters can actually reversal edge in between. So it's just like, lol, we got those L's. We got
Yeah.
those L's.
It's that thing I was saying about how like something you thought was a weakness before in season 2, they've just been like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All good fun.
Okay, so do you reckon there's anything else to add around Spiral Lust? I know people were chatting about it in the chat. Differences of opinion about its utility and how good it is.
Um,
But essentially, it's a bit of a movement mix-up. Like, are you gonna try and press and move and get hit by the bee, or are you gonna hold it for too long and potentially get hit by the unblockable?
Yeah, it's a nice little guessing game that it's got. You could release it at any moment, so you could actually catch an early attempt at step at the moment they let go of guard if you just released it. That's what, like, I'm not quite doing the unblockable there, I'm just charging it up a little bit. And that sort of timing often catches people out. Because the
Yeah, because
moment they
they kind
realise,
of
oh no, he's going to do the unblockable, the moment they let go of guard, you might just launch them for it.
a cheeky one that.
And as you said, it goes into Serpents Embrace, which is such a good stance. If you've got a reliable way of getting into this stance, then you're laughing.
So you mentioned you liked her new move A6.
Yeah,
Is that plus on hit as well?
yeah, I believe on hit it's plus 10 into Serpents Embrace.
Ooh, that's dangerous. Let's have a look on 8-way run.
Yeah, the 8-way run should be up to date now.
Yeah, it is. A hold 6 into Serpent's Embrace is plus 10 on hit, so you really don't want to be pressing after that. And I guess that's another reason why Ivy's mid-range game is so impressive, because as you said, you try and step, you try and move, boom, you get hit, and then you're into a mix-up.
And one thing that's really good about this move as well, like even if you block it, I believe that it is only -2 into stance.
Yeah.
So if you try and press anything that's not too fast, you'll just get counter hit by that. So you'll have to do something, I think I-14 or faster to trade with it. So in general, if you block it up close, you could just 2A her out of anything she wants to do.
Yeah.
But if you block it at the range where she wants you to block it, then 2A is just going to whiff this kind of range. And she can also backstep while she's in it. And in fact, I'll set it up. Cervantes is quite privileged. He does have quite a good 2A, but even Cervantes 2A, she'll be able to make it whiff. Yeah, see that? It just whiffed right through her.
Yeah.
I don't even need it to move, and that's a legit punish. So
see, I'm finding this so useful myself, because these are the kind of like little interactions in fighting games that you sometimes just miss and don't think of.
Yeah, and all this sort of stuff is quite key to beating Ivy, because she's got so many different topics of conversation, so many things to make you think about. You need to be familiar enough to know, like, no, I'm -2, this is this situation, these are my options here. You just don't want to get flustered and panic when you start blocking things like this. But yeah, the reason why I think this is quite good is because you could just do this and not go into the stance. And then
create a whiff and then boom.
Yeah. So yeah, it's generally just a very good horizontal, good step killer. I don't think many of her new moves make a huge difference, but they're nice little additions.
Yeah, and I think yeah, we'll definitely touch on her new moves and in a bit more depth later on. But she's got a couple of new moves that people might want to talk about. So, for example, her new, is it 1A? Yeah, 1A plus G and from crouch 1A plus G, the one that kind of draws you in.
Oh yeah,
The,
the new 3A plus G.
yeah, that's it. 3A plus G.
Yeah, this is the
Fantastic
thing.
animation, by the way.
Yeah, it's just so impressive the amount of work they put into this. Yeah, they basically replaced her old 3A plus G, which used to do the same as a 2A plus G. It used to just launch you really hard. So it's a nerf in only one respect. It's a nerf in that it no longer rings out. Previously, that would just send you flying out the ring.
Yeah.
But now she can't be at like this range and still snipe you with a random one of those.
Yeah.
For no reason. But I think this move is better in every other way because it's plus 16 on hit. So it means it combos into that, so now it does more damage than it used to with the combo.
Yeah.
And yeah, another interaction worth knowing that this move is plus 14. So like you really don't have a lot of things you can do here.
Wow.
Like, any attempts to step will get shut down by 6-6A.
So what move is that?
Complemented
Sorry.
by this move. Oh, sorry, it's a 6-6BB.
6. Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, you can combo that from 3A plus G into 6-6BB, and now that'll shut down all movement attempts. And then if you start respecting it, you're into this mix-up territory.
Yeah.
If you try and GI, this works.
So is that a little
really
bit like the
cheeky.
Solomel's unblockables, where it's you've got enough frames that if you GI and do the unblockable straight away, you get hit anyway?
Yeah, just like that. And just like Zaslamel's, I can see that you didn't GI and cancel it.
God almighty.
Also, this is really scary on Ivy because if I do that, I could actually be hiding a buffer with the unblockable. So there's a mind game after I've cancelled it, after I guessed right. Well, after I guessed wrong on the GI, I'm still able to cancel it and do another little mental mix-up for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess as
conclusion,
well,
this
I
move's
mean,
good.
being plus 16, is there anything, so off of, 3A plus G, plus 16, if you were to then go into CS, is there anything that your opponent can do except for duck?
No, they have to duck it or break it. It's a really legit mix-up. And remember, she could also be a bit cheeky and just throw out an I-16 or an I-14 and then CS. So she could do that, and then, I don't know, she could do a While Rising K, for example, or a 6-6K, and use that to buff a CS.
Oh.
So she's got these little mind games. She can combo into 6-6K and then into another mix-up.
So I guess this move is actually, I mean, I don't know, from what I know about it, one of the best additions to her kit, because it kind of plays on that split personality thing that we discussed earlier. She's now got a choice between 2A plus G to kind of throw you away on hit, mix up, and she can now mix that up with 3A plus G, which draws you in, makes CS a threat. So she can choose now, using that low throw. She can choose, do I want to keep you out, do I want to bring you in? And at any point,
Yeah.
she can change the tempo.
Yeah, pretty much. So basically with these two moves, 2A plus G and 3A plus G, you'll see that there's slightly different range to them. 2A plus G is this one,
Yeah.
3A plus G is this one. As you can see, it's a bit further out. But you'll also notice that those circles kind of overlap quite a lot.
Yeah.
It looks like a Venn diagram sort of thing. There's a big gap in the middle where you could be hit by both of them. So when you're at this kind of sweet spot range, I could either 2 or 3A plus G you, depending on what I want to do. Usually when B6 lands, I get the option of whether I want a 2A plus GU to create maximum range, or 3A plus GU to bring you in and do a combo. Oh, and another thing about 3A plus G is that if it's used in a stun combo, the stun carries on. So what I mean by that...
Oh, is that
if I do
intended?
this, I believe so. A lot of moves are like this. It means that after a B6, which stuns you, I can use a counter hit move, like that, and it's a combo.
Ah.
So, in fact, you can tech trap after that as well. But yeah, only on stun combos, oh, I messed that up. Only on stun combos does she get access to 6KB combos for an actual knockdown. And then that's a tech trap as well.
Okay, nice. And does that catch all directions as well? Christmas tree there.
Yep, catches all directions and it hits them if they stay on the ground. And I
Fair enough.
believe she's got things that don't hit them if they roll, but relaunch them again. Yeah, stuff like that. So if you really want to call out the tech, Ivy can straight up just launch you for it.
Mm. And Christmas tree, infamously a move that a lot of characters struggle to punish. So it is minus 16 on block, isn't it? But I guess because of the range that it leaves you at.
This is another really interesting move. So basically how it works is there are 3 hits to it, and only 2 of them will ever hit you at a given time. Except in some specific situations, like if you end up behind her, you might get hit by all 3. So the reason why it's sometimes safe and it sometimes isn't is that it's unsafe if the first 2 hits hit you. This will happen up close. Like you can see the 2 hits are like almost in immediate succession.
Yeah.
But if I do it at mid-range, whoops, you can see that like, no, that was there. It's really like hard to notice, but the rhythm of the 2 hits is slightly slower. That was the fast one, and that was the slow one. You might have to like clip it and watch it back a few times. It's really hard to confirm it in a match. But what's happening is, when I do it at mid-range, I'm making the second hit whiff and the third hit connect. And when that happens, it recovers quicker.
Okay, do you know exactly how fast it recovers then?
I'm not too sure actually. It might be like minus 10. I can't remember
Jeez. Fair enough.
Yeah, it basically means that if she spaces it correctly, no one's really punishing it. So yeah, that's why it sometimes feels like you can block punish it, and it sometimes feels like you can't.
Okay.
If you're an Ivy player, the way to make it hit on the first and third hit is generally to move backwards and then forwards. Like she can move during Christmas tree. So like notice how I start up close and I can move backwards, compared to if I start up close and keep moving forward. So if you're an Ivy player and you want to make this move safe, generally just move backwards a little bit and then forwards at the end.
And does that guarantee it'll be safe every single time, or?
It guarantees it depending on the range.
Okay.
If I'm at this range, there's nothing I can do to make it safe. I can move backwards just to increase the spacing. But this range, it's always going to be minus 16 on block.
Yeah.
At this range, I can make it become safe just by shuffling backwards a little bit and then shuffling back forwards.
That's super useful because a lot of times, I don't know, when you watch SoulCalibur tournaments, you'll hear, and there's Christmas tree, oh god, that move is so hard to punish. And people will say that every single time, and now we know why. So thank you so much for that, Carp.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So to completely switch up the topics then, I want to touch on Ivy's Soul Charge because we haven't even got into that whole realm yet. So I don't know, from your perspective, what does Soul Charge add to Ivy's neutral, Ivy's pressure, and her kit generally?
I think it completely changes her as a character. Because of one move in particular, the very infamous 60k. Just access to this move just makes her able to play like such a unga bunga rush down style of character.
So let's talk about that move then. So it's got 2 hits. The first one seems quite vertical, but the second one is horizontal, isn't it?
You're quite right to say quite vertical. Quite vertical. Sometimes a little bit horizontal. The general rule is, yeah, this move is fairly vertical. And that's another reason to really hate it. You can generally step it very consistently. For most characters. I don't know about some characters. But it will very frequently track an 8-way run. So if you just keep the direction held, there will be times where this tracks you. And it gets weird tracking properties near a wall or an edge. Sometimes you'll like walk towards an edge or a wall and it'll just push you back into the hit radius.
Yeah, I think that's quite an element of SoulCalibur that I quite like. I know we all hate horizontals, but I think at the wall, when you've kind of worked hard to get your opponent to the wall, I quite like the fact that verticals take on slightly different properties at the edge and at the wall.
Yeah, it's definitely quite an interesting little addition there, Bob.
So Soul Charge, so that's
Yeah,
the infamous
Soul Charge.
6/6 KK, and that did actually combos off of that move got a damage nerf in the latest patch, didn't it?
Yes, it used to do, I think, 114. Well, it used to do 120, and they nerfed it to 114, I think. Now it's 90.
Okay.
That's and remember that this move, the CE actually scales a lot if they're at low health. And the main reason to do this combo is if it secures the kill. So the fact that it's hurt a lot by low health scaling means that in practice it will do less than 90 damage if she's
Yeah.
using it for the kill. So yeah, this is less something that you have to be terrified of now. It's more just a sort of Hail Mary way of closing out a round using falling resources. It also means they nerfed some of her Soul Charge combos. Like before, this is still the optimal, but yeah, this now does, I want to say 62? No, I think I might just play on Steam like offline settings. I'm doing it on 5 bars to get used to PS4 lag.
Yeah, when I really had a great time at like Meltdown over the weekend, but playing on PS4 was like,
Yeah, you really feel the difference. Now I'm at a point where I just don't know what I'm trained to do anymore. I don't know what I'm trained for. Actually, no, maybe I am still trained to PS4. Let's leave it at 5 bars. But yeah, so moves like this, standard launcher into that, if I could actually do it. They've been nerfed a little bit. But
So-
I think the Soul Charge has been buffed overall, actually, because to link us back to 3A plus G,
yeah.
plus 16, and you know what's I-16?
CS by any chance?
Nah, 6/6 KK, but
Oh
also
wow.
CS.
Oh nice.
Yeah.
So you're getting like really decent damage on that. And then how plus is that on hit then?
Plus 8, or is it plus 10? No, it's plus 14, sorry. Mind blank. It's
Oh,
plus
so
14.
then you're eating a mix up straight away.
Yep. So, yeah, the thing that was so threatening about her Soul Charge in general is this move, close range rush down. But now, if you get hit by 3A plus G from the other side of the screen, it leads into the same Soul Charge rush down,
Yeah.
where you're minus 14 and guessing for your life. And even with the introduction of reverse impact, that doesn't help that much, because infamously the reason Serpents Embrace is so scary in Soul Charge is because this becomes an unlock.
Yeah. So that is her Serpents Embrace 6A, is that right?
That is correct.
So then outside of Soul Charge, that move isn't an unblockable, and although it's a high, inside of Soul Charge it isn't unblockable. So that really seems to strengthen Ivy's game. You've got to guess, okay, am I going to duck expecting CS or expecting 6A? If I do, then I'm going to get mashed by Serpents Embrace B.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and unfortunately for literally everyone, this is only a level 1 reverse impact. No, resist impact, sorry. Meaning that if you resist impact against this, you're only plus 8. You don't get any guaranteed damage at all.
So I know you've got quite reserved, or I don't know what the word is. You're quite skeptical about reverse impact as a mechanic, generally speaking. So can you show us what might happen to the opponent if they try and reverse impact Ivy Serpents Embrace 6A?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that could happen. So let's have him get hit by 6/6 KK, and then is it in guard impact? Yeah, resist impact. So yeah, you can see that this is only plus 8 for the opponent.
Yeah.
You'll see that.
So you're spending half a bar to be plus 8.
Yeah, like level 3 GI, she will fall back on her ass. Like that. That's level 3 one. That's what you want. But with this move, it's just instantly recovers after 8 frames. But yeah, what could go wrong is they could just training doesn't know how to do it. Training won't just wait. We can make this work.
Yeah, I think if you record him doing it, yeah.
Yeah.
So be it.
Hopefully this will work, because training mode does have its occasional bug.
Peace out, Zero. Zero's got to head off. Thanks for tuning
for
in.
joining
Really
us.
appreciate it. And thanks to everyone else for tuning in on the stream as well. Just remember, if you've got any questions for HolyCarp, please don't feel free. Please don't feel free. Wow.
Whoa,
Don't ask any
toxic.
questions, guys. Do not ask any questions.
This is a
No, I'm joking.
dictatorship.
Please feel free to ask Carp any questions. So yeah, back to the RI.
Yeah, so as I said, you don't get anything guaranteed even if you do that. I could just do another one, right? For all I care. But yeah, if you mistime it,
Oh.
you still get lethal hit by break attacks, which seems so unintuitive. It's like I knew our break attack was coming, but oh well, I guess I get lethal hit anyway. And this, you can make this just keep them in the blender actually. Like she's got multiple combo opportunities like this button. I like to end with that, but you're straight back into the Serpents Embrace mix-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she could just wait for you to whiff the reversal edge as well, and then finish it on reaction. But yeah, she can do pretty much whatever she wants if she expects a resist impact.
So in some ways, it kind of seems that instead of spending half a bar to maybe be +8, if you're expecting Serpents Embrace, Soul Charge 6A, maybe just duck.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing to do. Resist impact is definitely an option, and if you're in Soul Charge as well, it's less expensive. And if you're Killick and you're in Soul Charge, then you can spam it all day. He has no costs using it. But yeah, this is kind of an example of why I'm quite skeptical about it as a general mechanic, like just spending your meter on it. Because as we've seen, like, Ivy is disgustingly cheap when she has meter. She can pull off all of this stuff in Soul Charge. You know, do you really want to give up the opportunity to do that as well?
Yeah.
Or for the sake of maybe being +8, sorry.
So what else does Soul Charge bring to Ivy's game? So we know we've got Soul Charge 66k, really powerful move, great damage. What else?
It gives her this. This is 2/2A plus B, which is a safe mid-horizontal. I say safe, it's 0 on block. It pushes you all the way out. Like, let's have him block it. God all. Continue action. Just look how far it sends him. And he's at 0 frames. So it's basically resetting you to mid-range neutral.
And that's doing a healthy amount of chip damage as well.
Yeah, I think it's something like 13 chip damage, or somewhere in that region. Can we see it? It's like 5277. That looked like 13. It's a good chunk of chip damage. It's 20% guard damage. 0 on block. Puts you back to mid-range, where you have to guess whether she's going to run in and start doing more stuff like that, or whether she's going to snipe with one of these.
So I was actually looking at this move yesterday because I've been going through all of the characters in season 2. I literally haven't been playing anyone. I've just been labbing. So they did make it so that you can reliably GI the second hit of 22A plus BB, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I believe this one is at least level 2 GI, so you end up +16 if you do choose to GI it.
Which some characters get more out of than others. Nightmare, you know, Keelik.
Yeah. Yeah, if you've got a good GI game, if you can actually do something with level 2 GI. But again, this is just another guessing game, because if she guesses that you're... yeah, it doesn't work like that, does it? Let's use the resist impact, because it's basically the same thing. Play recording 1. Hopefully this will... Yeah, so just pretend that was a GI. It's basically the same thing in this situation. You've still got the guessing game of, am I going to do the full string? Maybe I'm not.
Yeah.
And I think she can actually do another one. I think that's how unsafe it is.
Oh wow, fair enough.
Yeah, I think that's legit. I remember testing it. But,
and then obviously she's got loads of different options as well, not just, potential mid. She's got CS, SS. And if she's in Soul Charge, again, 66kk.
And I think one thing you'll find when you fight her in Soul Charge is that you've got so many more things to think about. Like, good luck thinking about this move. Good thing, like, it's going to be so much more challenging to break CS and the amount of pressure she puts you under in Soul Charge.
Yeah.
And then now this buff of her being able to CS from stance gives her another way of setting it up.
Peace out, Wind Up Skeleton. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. You're gonna miss actually the announcement of what we've got for you next week, but it's cool. It's cool. I'll forgive you. So anything else do you think that comes to mind as like her powerful additions in Soul Charge?
As we've seen before, she's got this move as well. And actually, there are two moves that complement each other quite nicely, I think. If I'll just set him to block for now. So
sorry, HolyCarp. It's Wind Up. I see. Not
Wind Up Skeleton.
Wind Up. My apologies. I'll catch you soon.
Her Soul Charge 6BB. Just look at the amount of pushback that's got on it.
Yeah.
It's plus on block and it sends you across to the other end of the screen. And then the move that complements quite well is Soul Charge 4A. So you've also got a horizontal tool that just sends them flying backward.
Oh, wow, yeah. So she's got... And these are all break attacks as well, so...
So not only is she a better rushdown character in Soul Charge, she's a better zoner in Soul Charge. Because she's got this is I-18 tech crouching mid with decent range to it. It'll hit from here.
And there's nothing you can do about that second hit, assumedly?
No, nothing you can do. You just have to block the second hit. You can't step out of it. You can't resist impact. You just have to take it if you block the first. And it's a natural counter combo. So if this catches you on counter hit, first hit, counter hit, it'll go into that whole cinematic that we saw before.
Yeah.
No one escapes me.
So pretty good damage. So for that reason, you can't panic reversal edge or panic GI. I mean, you can GI the first hit of that, but you can't GI that. Also, if this hits them, it doesn't push back. They end up in perfect range from mix-up. So, just generally, I think it's quite a niche use for a Soul Charge in general, to be able to zone. But there are times when it comes in handy. Like, say, if you're against someone else with a really strong Soul Charge. Like, I'm scared of Mitsurugi's Soul Charge, Aswell's, Mina's. Characters who can just make comebacks happen out of nothing with their Soul Charge. And being able to pop your own Soul Charge, like the initial Soul Charge activation, is enough to push them away. Killick's another example of this, because you want to make his health drain. You pop Soul Charge, that pushes them back. As soon as they get in, throw these out. And you're just doing this to... Well, if it's Killick, you're doing it to drain his health. But anyone else, you're doing it to drain their meter. You're saying, I don't want you to have this come back every time you get close. You have to guess between whether I'm going to do that or that. And I'm just going to waste your time.
That's a really strategic use of Soul Charge as well. I guess another example would be when Cervantes pop Soul Charge. Obviously, you can fly about the screen. So I often find quite a useful way to kind of counter Soul Charge is to Soul Charge yourself when he's in the air, splats him down, and then you can start your pressure while his Soul Charge is running out.
Yeah, that's a very good tool. I mean, he's not Soul Charge, but he'll probably work on that move. This is... Oh, I messed it up already. But yeah, this isn't... Obviously, that's not a move that they're ever going to use. But if they do, Dread Charge ways eventually... Oh yeah, that straight up punishes it. But, yeah, this is the kind of situation we get, where...
And I think
obviously,
that's
you'll
quite...
be Soul Charge, Red Charge B or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you get your pressure.
And I find it, because part of the reason why I know Andy's asking about Soul Attack in chat, we haven't touched on Soul Attack yet, but I'm literally about to do the smoothest segue into it. So, prior to Season 2, Soul Charge as a mechanic always pushed the opponent away, and that really benefited characters like Ivy, like Nightmare, who want you to be kind of full to mid screen. And I mean, as a Nightmare main myself, I often don't mind running down my soul charge if it means that I've got a health lead and you're too scared to approach. That's kind of exactly the kind of pace that I want to play at. So they've now introduced a new mechanic, which is soul attack, which kind of changes those dynamics for shorter range characters, because they can now use soul attack to pop soul charge in an offensive as opposed to defensive way, as we've discussed. Typical of Ivy, though, she's got quite a split personality and has a soul attack that is quite, how should I put it? Good? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go as far to saying it currently may be the best in the game. It's
Fair
definitely
enough.
up there.
So, soul attack as a mechanic, what are your thoughts? And in specific, talk to us about Ivy's soul attack.
Okay, so in general, I would say this is one of the very few things that happened in Season 2 that can be counted as a indirect nerf to Ivy. Because it was always great how, in the past, if anyone wants to try their soul charge pressure on Ivy, either they give up damage in combos, like they launch you and then instead of taking guaranteed damage, they splat you so that they can continue their pressure, or they soul charge in your face and just end up set to mid-range, and it's like, oh, as an Ivy player, this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start zoning you, or I'm going to just like make you run into CS. So now, in terms of Ivy's matchups, I think that's one of the very few things you could say is a net nerf to her, because now everyone can continue their pressure while they pop soul charge. You know, they do so without resetting Ivy to her perfect range. But in terms of Ivy's soul attack, this is apparently going to get fixed. They said that they wanted to look at changing it. So the reason why I think it's possibly the best, if not one of the best in the game, is that she has certain setups where you can soul attack and it leaves you back turned, and in a true 50-50, because you're back turned. It's not one of these 33-33-33s where you've got one option to like step or reversal edge or something. It's a true 50-50. So the easiest setup would be full platform B, back turned A, soul attack. And then if they're blocking, that would have worked.
Yeah.
But it puts you in a true back turn 50-50, where if you stand block, you get 100 damage CS.
Wow.
And you see his health there. Right, that's 2/3 of their health gone.
So then obviously to beat that back turn CS, you're going to want to duck. So what can... Nationally's in the chat like, bro, seriously, bro.
Yep.
So you're going to want to duck. And a couple of characters have these kind of like back turn grab setups. So Siegfried's got one. Keelik's got one. I know Milos is going to hate the fact that that I've said that. But... this is special because it allows her to not only get a back grab CS for 100 damage, but obviously she's now in soul charge. So what mid options does she have?
Funnily enough, it's not even a soul charge exclusive mid. It's just an OP mid that Ivy always has access to. So because she's in soul charge, because she puts herself into Serpents Embrace, she's got all the Serpents Embrace tools. So your mid is going to be this. Well, the full thing, if I hadn't completely forgotten my timing on it. Which should be like, what? When you're back turned, I think it'll be... It won't show in training, but if you try and block... Let's get it to show in training. Normal... I don't actually know if this will work, because training's a bit weird when it comes to combos. Yeah. Oh yeah, I want him to duck. Crouch,
Oh, Milos is saying, I have a back turn grab setup. Yes, you do. We know. We know now.
How I completely forgotten how to do this. This might be the rest of the video, just me trying to do this over and over again.
We're going to get there. Chat, send Carp your energies, please.
I literally can't. Wait, I'll use the trick that I used to do. Just to like move my camera. Okay, yeah. The old trick when I first learned this I've had to go back to like day 1 strat. Nope. Basically, it does 82 damage. It should do 82 damage. You might just have to take my word for it.
Milo's,
This is
isn't it
the-
the one that
Hey,
where you can get a back
81.
grab? Oh, you did it. Well done. Kudos.
Were you watching me, Ma? Were you watching?
I made it, Mom.
Yeah, we should have picked this on a day when, like, clearly wasn't a terrible execution day. But yeah, so she's got an 81 damage mid, which just so happens to be plus 12 on block at the same time.
So win-win
So-
situation. So they're going to look at changing that. Really tough to see how they will change that.
Yeah,
But-
my guess would be maybe you'll just always be facing her after the soul charge.
Yeah.
So then you'd have the option of GI to beat both of them. And like it'd still be a really terrifying 50-50 because she'd still be able to do the unblockable as well. But at least if you faced her, there'd be an element of guessing. You could probably step. I don't know if you could step the D. Can't remember now. But you'd be allowed to play. You'd be allowed to have a guess.
So I think we can all agree that that is like legitimately broken. That's
Yeah.
that's not okay. That's wrong. That is
Yeah.
against all morality, against all sense. We can agree with that. What
Mhm.
else did season 2 give Ivy?
So we've talked a little bit about some of the new stuff she's got. We've got this, which is a buff to her soul charge as well, because it combos with 6 KK. And we talked about A6. You briefly mentioned A4 earlier. This is alright. It's an I-16 horizontal, which is safe on block and plus 2 on hit.
Is that A4? Sorry.
A4. Yeah. I think the main use will be for punishment, because her main I-16 punisher is 6-6 VB. But if something pushes her out of 6-6 V range, then she can do this.
Yeah.
And I guess it's not a bad sort of range 2 deck killer that's pretty safe. It's a bit faster than 4L.
But if I remember correctly, A4 is actually minus on hit, isn't it?
I think it's plus 2 on hit.
Is it plus? Or it might be a normal A6 hit that's minus.
That's possible. If you don't go into the stance, A6 isn't that far.
Oh yeah, A6 is -4, and then
Mm.
A4 is +2. Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, it's a serviceable move. It's not bad after a throw break as well. It leaves you like a throw break tends to leave you at like this range.
Yeah.
It's not a bad way to stop step after a throw break. But that move's alright. I wouldn't talk too much about it though. This move's nice. 1BP skill. And
This move is. I was looking at this move yesterday. The pushback on it is like bonkers.
it's basically the same as a soul charge 2/2 A plus BB in terms of like, the amount of pushback.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you said, even if you block it, it's no point and guard or really good amount of pushback. I think it's -10 on block.
But
it's
then
kinda
it can
hard
be
to
held
defend.
to become a break attack, so against more passive opponents who may be afraid to move, afraid to press a button, you've got that option.
Yeah, I haven't personally found a use for this move yet, because I think if you know they're going to stay still, you may as well just use that, which is really nice. Like it puts you in a really good space.
Does more
I
guard
think
damage
it's
as well,
faster.
15%.
Yeah, that being only 8. I think it's slower. But my main use for this move in general, because Ivy's got a few moves that can just push you out to mid-range. Like, if your only goal is to push them out to mid-range, I think this move is slightly better. Because it pushes back and it's, I believe, -2?
So what move's this, sorry?
This is 1B hold.
1B hold.
And that just completely pushes you out to mid-range and does the same amount of guard damage, I think. Are they both 8%? Yeah, they're both 8%. The 1B is quite good just because...
Yeah, it's -2. That's
Yeah.
bananas.
This
That's
used
pretty
to be
good.
allowed. Yeah. Back in the day, in version 1, this was allowed. And in SoulCalibur 4, that was allowed. This was like the lag low, because if they don't block it, it just brings out. You see how far it sends them. This was Ivy pinnacle lag low.
Yeah, that's guys Project Soul's idea of balance. We're going to change that move to a special low, but we're just going to give it absolutely everything else.
It already had absolutely everything else. This is Ivy we're talking about. Of course she was designed to be broken from the get-go. We were talking about this move. My main use for it, I think, is for Oki, because it's really awkward to side roll. Like, I find after most knockdowns, like after this, for example, like you really have to commit to a side roll to get out of that.
Yeah.
If you do just one little side roll, it tends to just realign to you. Like you really just have to hold down a direction, like bet everything on her not hitting you while you're down.
Yeah, really commit to it.
And in general, like whenever Ivy knocks people back to sort of mid-range, like, this might be a bit too far, but like this sort of range of Oki guessing game, a lot of people will be aware that like they're in perfect range for these moves. I guess this might be fine, for example. 2 4A, 2 4B. This is a good setup for that mix-up. What a lot of people will do in that situation is they'll roll forward so that they put themselves at this range and then 3A plus G or 3B plus K whiff, and then they can launch Punisher. So this move is just generally really nice for like stopping people who want to roll into Ivy, because they will take all of those hits if they roll into them.
That's I suppose that's probably going to be the main use of that move, because even I make a habit of when an Ivy player like kind of chucks me far away, tech forward, roll forward, and try and stop any kind of 8B plus Ks and things like that. So that's actually quite a nice addition, I suppose. Again, just kind of locking you out and forcing you to play respectfully and to get in slowly at those kind of mid to long range positions.
Yeah, it gives you another reason to really respect her mid-range Oki.
Yeah.
Like, this move itself is a good example of it. Like that's probably the perfect range actually, where people like look how he gets straight back up into that mixer.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you've done that to someone, they're gonna want to roll forward next time, and if they do, they just take all those hits. So it adds another dimension to the mid-range Oki guessing game. As if she didn't have enough dimensions in the guessing game.
She's just really well-rounded in more ways than one. Can't we agree with that, chat?
I don't understand. What other way do you mean? Please explain in graphic detail.
I'm just gonna have to leave it to everyone's imagination, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So any kind of other Arthia in the chat. Listen, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
This movie. Let's talk about this movie.
Oh yeah, is it while rising A plus B or something, or from crouch A plus B?
Yeah, pretty much. Full crouch 3A plus B. Really cool move. It's not like it's quite easy to defend against the move because it's high and it's linear. So if you either duck or sidestep, then you can punish her for it. But it's just generally a really nice move for like your spacing and your zoning game. Like if you think they're gonna freeze at mid-range, or if you think you're in their head enough that when you step forward, they block. I like to run in and 60 fail.
Yeah.
So if they do anything, like it will hit them, and so I condition them that like when I step forward, I'm going to do this, which just beats everything. So once you get to that sort of point where you're really in their head about you can forward move and they won't do anything, you can sort of forward move, do that, and then if they block it, oops, if they block it, they're straight back to the same range they were a second ago.
Yeah, so just more additions to that, forcing you to play in that mid-range.
And it's got so much range to it. It'll hit from here.
So we are getting close to kind of running out of time. So I've got a couple more things that I want to cover before we get to that kind of bedtime point. So I know we've got all granddads and grandmas in the chat, and you got to get to bed and got work in the morning. So don't worry. So there's just really one more big topic that I wanted to personally learn more about. Ivy has these unblockable setups, and she's got 2 unblockables, and depending on kind of how you respond defensively, you can blow the opponent up for it. So can you kind of talk us through those unblockable setups that she's got?
Yeah, okay. I will actually just pick Ivy for this, so that I can record them against myself. Yeah, I know which ones you mean. They are quite gimmicky.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if responding to them is character specific or not. I haven't actually looked into this. I apologise for my lack of creations. I'm new to PC. Okay?
HolyCarp is new to PC, everyone, so he's building up his creations, but next time
Yeah.
he'll have a whole
Yeah.
catalogue. But I'm loving the
Corner
Christmas
focus.
theme though, feeling it.
Yeah, I've also noticed whenever I pick this custom in online matches, I find myself unable to do anything other than this move. I just got a Christmas tree, you know. Yeah, I also love the little the snow pack as well. Like, whenever you hit her, a load of snow
Oh yeah.
explodes in a little flurry. It just like some of you hang up Christmas trees and I don't know, put fairy lights up. This is how I get Christmas. I just beat people up with ivy. But yeah. So the main setups for this is whenever you get a really high law, which you tend to get off like Spiral Lust B.
Yeah.
That's one of them. Or Jump B or While Riding B. Those are like the really high launches that set it up. And one that she used to have has gone now. She used to be able to do it off that. But they changed the behaviour on that B plus K.
Yeah.
That's how it keeps you in front of her now. It used to like flip you behind her and then that would set this up. So that one's gone, you don't need to worry about that one anymore. Basically, when she gets one of those launches, if you stay down, that's guaranteed. There's nothing you can do there. You can't get up reverse impact, you can't get up soul charge, you can't roll it, it's just, you messed up.
So you have to Ukemi.
You have to Ukemi. And I probably didn't actually need to use Ivy in this but if you Ukemi, you get out of it. Well, I don't need to do the unlock. The Ivy player can react to your Ukemi and cancel it.
Okay.
Which isn't completely safe, but it means that you're not going to absolutely destroy her for it. And then the mix-up that people tend to use is they do this unlock.
Which is horizontal.
Yeah. And I think that most characters should be able to back tech out of both options. Yeah, that's why I wanted to record it. Let's see if this works. Can you back tech and then back tech? Oh wait, I forgot what I wanted to do. Okay, that might be legit then.
So genuine guessing game. So that unblockable that she's using, is that a mid?
Yeah, that's a mid.
Oh wow, okay.
So you can forward tech soul charge.
Okay.
That's the one I knew does work for sure. So if you don't want to take the guessing game, and then it should work on both of them. Whoops, I did critical edge. That definitely doesn't work. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's your way out of both.
So I guess the main point there is just be aware of when she gets kind of like really big launches. Does she have tech traps off of this situation?
Yes. Well, I think that's the best way to tech trap out of
Okay,
it.
yeah.
That gives you a reward similar to this unblockable.
Okay,
if she
fair
does
enough.
have other forms of tech traps, I believe that it's less reward than actually just doing the combo. So you may as well just do the combo.
Yeah.
There's no like other tech trap that I know of that's been discovered.
Okay, so I'm just going to add one more topic before we kind of start wrapping up. That Folker 17's asked. So could you maybe showcase a couple of Season 2 combos that she's got?
Yep, so the thing that changed most with this, that's the new optimal off 9B plus K.
And that's to prevent ring outs, isn't it? They changed the behavior on that move.
Yeah, and in doing so, they made this do more damage.
Okay.
So, like, if they want to try and Ukemi as well, it'll do even more damage. Yeah, there's a nice clean 102 damage for you, because she needs that.
Casual.
So, yeah, this is one of those situations where you definitely don't attack. Because that didn't need to do 102 damage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But she
another
can no longer
situa-
get the unblockable setup off of that, so you've got really no reason to try and tech there anymore anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And she can also set this up off tech traps. So another place where you really don't want to
Show
tech
me your power.
is this move.
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
full relaunch.
Yeah. Okay, I messed the timing up that time. But I usually do a little backstep to get the timing. But yeah, basically you don't want to tech there. Like,
Yeah.
this seems to hit everyone. And then you also don't want to tech here. 'Cause
Eek.
all of your health is gone.
Yeah, Ivy's fine, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Buff Ivy.
Do
Do you know the funny thing about Ivy is not even Ivy players are like buff Ivy. Ivy players are just like, yeah, we're busted.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I told you the soul charge setup, the soul attack setup.
Yeah.
Absolutely just wrong. It should never be a thing.
So we've covered loads. So we've covered kind of Ivy's neutral. We've covered kind of strengths and weaknesses, some tips for countering Ivy, her soul charge, season 2. So I guess it's the final question that people might want to know, because this is just the FGC question that people like to ask generally. Best and worst matchups. Fire.
That is a good question. I think it's really hard to say at this point because, with it being season 2, a lot of things have changed. So I'm not too sure how things have changed with season 2 yet, because I haven't really played a lot of the ones that I struggled with previously.
So who would you say in season 1 was her best and worst matchups?
A lot of other Ivy players disagreed with me on some of these, but I thought her worst matchup was Aswell, and I thought like everyone's worst matchup low-key was Aswell.
Yeah.
Including Aswell. So I think Aswell's still going to be difficult, but it might be more manageable now. I think she struggled a little bit with Mina, but a lot of other Ivy players will insist that it's a 5-5. But I personally thought that one was slightly in Mina's favour.
So
Sophia was
Rabichu
difficult.
Dezu saying Sophie, really? Best
Yeah,
matchup?
I think Sophie. As in, these are difficult ones for Ivy.
Oh, okay. Worst
So
matchup, yeah.
I'd also say Sophie was difficult and probably will continue to be difficult. Mostly because you can't zone her. The character's just a moving tech crouch. So you're not allowed to use any of your high zoning tools. And you've got to be so careful with grabs, because either she'll just accidentally tech crouch them because everything she does tech crouches, or she'll purposely do it and lethal hit punish you for it.
Yeah.
So you can't zone her very effectively, you can't grapple her like in a greedy way, or she really like makes you pay for it. And yeah, just in general, it's a matchup where you can't really control the pace of it very well. And there's a fair risk reward to all of the things you do.
Yeah, I feel you. This is one thing I can sympathise as a Nightmare main. I can definitely sympathise with this.
Oh, with Sophie in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'll run the same game plan against Ivy, really. Like, you can't reliably keep her out. You do have to kind of respect what she wants to do. So, oh yeah, that's one of the buffs in season 2. This move's now really good.
Oh yeah, they changed the. Wait, what did they change about that?
It's now only -16 on block. Before it was death on block. You couldn't really use it that much as a zoning tool.
Ah.
But now if they block it at full screen, it's not a big issue. And I think it's got more hit stun. I think it might have added +2 hit stun. I can't remember. But they fixed the problem with it basically, which was that it was death on block. So if you tried to zone with it, as soon as they block it, it's like, well, your turn's over, now they're going to get in.
Yeah. Okay, and what do you think her best matchups season 1 were?
I think she had a very good matchup against Killick. Because one thing that Killick struggles with in particular is just having good advancing tools and getting in an aggressive way. I don't think it's a reason. Like he can't. It's not like it's unwinnable or anything. But he's forced to play extra patiently, just constantly walking in and blocking and just being super patient and often passive at the mid range. And he had the problem of he couldn't really use his meter very well against her because he tries to go into soul charge, it knocks her back, and now she starts zoning him. He's losing health. She keeps zoning him. He's losing more and
Yeah.
more health. Then if she gets into a bad situation, she pops soul charge,
Keeps him out
resets
even
the
more.
distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I said, her soul charge has new zoning tools with it. So I think in season 1, that was one of her really good matchups. I think in season 2, he can now use her meter against her more offensively.
Mm.
And he seems to be a bit more well-rounded in general. So it could change a little bit in season 2. I also thought she was very good against Tira, just because like she gives Jolly hell. Because like Jolly's got a really good poking game in general, and she can play very lame if she's got the life lead. Like she's got a lot of pokes that just sort of push back and are very low commitment.
Mm.
But the issue with doing that against Ivy is that if she makes the correct read at the mid range, all of that hard work's gone for Tira. Ivy now does a ton of damage.
Yeah.
You can't really run sort of a lame, low risk reward pokey sort of gameplay against Ivy. And you can't get in very easily if you're Jolly Tira. So that was another one I thought that Ivy did very well in back in season 1.
So I guess
But
my
could
final
change.
question is season 2 prediction for who currently is the best character in the game. What do you think? Let's just throw out a wacky question like that.
Don't hold me to this, but right now I want to say Ivy. And it's one of those things that's quite hard to see because she's one of the characters with the highest ceiling in general.
Yeah.
Because part of what makes Ivy so strong is that like these grabs, but these grabs aren't like Aswell's Axe Low where you just press it randomly in neutral and then you get all the damage. You gotta have this 7 input buffer beforehand. So part of what makes Ivy so good is that in theory you could be completely playing the game, you know, doing the mid-range game, using the appropriate tools for whatever's going on, responding to strings correctly, and in the background buffering these grabs.
Yeah.
I think if the player is able to play the game optimally, punish everything, react to everything, stay mindful, but also keep having like these command grabs on reserve. Basically, if someone can play like a robot, I think that in theory gives Ivy the highest skill ceiling and makes her the best in the game easy.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating as well. Like, for example, with buffering CS, like you put yourself at -8 or -10, like instinctively you're going to want to block. But if you do that too much, you're just putting yourself into a 50-50 every single time if the players you're playing against is really good at buffering CS.
Yeah, because a lot of what you'll find often if you just play like Ivy players who aren't as experienced as some of the top performing tournament players, they'll all have their setups for CS. Like they'll hit you
Yeah.
with this, and then they'll CS you. Right? They'll always be creating their own opportunities to CS. Like they'll have their own pressure before, in which they buffer the grabs, and it's quite flowcharty.
Yeah.
But when you get to a really high level gameplay, you'll have people who will block your strings, and while blocking them, the Ivy player will buffer the grab.
Yeah.
And like the way the grab works as well, I could spend a long time explaining how it works, but I won't go into it because it's like that much explanation. People want to go to bed, I'm sure. But with the way it works, you can essentially like extend the buffer window. It's not like you've got a limited amount of time to do the whole thing. I can buffer some of it, run in, finish it. Like,
Oh,
you see that?
wow.
Yeah, all the way from that side of the screen.
That's
I can be at range.
insane.
Like literally, do you see that? That's her longest range move. Doesn't hit from that range. But no, I need to be a bit further back. You can make CF, you can make SS actually hit in that range. Come on. I don't want to be too ambitious. Okay. Oh,
Wow.
nearly.
Almost.
Yeah, essentially like the entire screen that's how long you have to extend the buffer window. So yeah, if Ivy players are really able to make use of the ways in which she can extend the buffer window, you can just throw it out what seems like randomly. Like she'll block you 2A and then SS out of nowhere.
Yeah. Just scary as hell.
Just knowing it
considering
could be
the
coming at any point.
grapple break window for CS is just so
Mm.
tiny.
Yeah. Like, it genuinely takes mental resources just to try and break it, I think. Like, you
Yeah.
need to be looking for it, or you need to be in the background, you need to be mashing your grab break. And if you're doing that, you're probably not ready to block that on reaction, because that's
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
borderline reactable. You're probably not ready for, remember some of these setups that I talked about, like a little full catch 3 cancel into something else. Like, yeah, you could CS there, that would be a dirty trick. Like, you're probably not going to be ready for stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is generally what I think this character's so good at. He's just got so many things to make you think about, and then surprise you with another mix-up once you're thinking about the previous mix-up.
So I guess this is actually a really good place to stop on CS. Naturally, we're going to stop the Ivy tutorial with a lot of questions that people probably have about CS. But obviously, we've got the Ivy Discord and we've got the SoulCalibur UK Discord as well, where people will be able to continue the conversation with you and other Ivy players that we have in the UK. But for now, guys, I'm afraid that is all of HolyCarp's amazing Ivy tutorial. Carp, thank you so much for coming onto the show. It's been great
thank
chatting
you
to
so
you.
much
I
for
have
having me.
learned so much. It's been amazing.
Oh, I'm glad that I was able to help that much. Yeah, I hope that anyone who wants to play Ivy watching this feel like they gained something from it, and anyone who wants to know how to fight Ivy, hopefully you gain something from it too. Yeah, thanks so much, Redbean, for inviting me to this, and thanks to East London Fighters for allowing this to happen, for giving us this platform on which I can do this guide.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Shout outs to everyone at East London Fighters, particularly Grimulus, who is always supporting all fighting game communities, but also SoulCalibur, and we're really, really grateful. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Game Genie 2222 is asking, will this be uploaded onto YouTube? It absolutely will, and we're going to be uploading it with some timestamps as well for the different topics that we've covered as well. So hopefully it will be a really helpful resource for people who want to access it at a later date. But for now, that is all for the Azure Arena, guys. But do not go anywhere. Don't you dare click off this stream, because we have one more event before the end of this year. So the Azure Arena has been running for, I want to say, 4, maybe 5 weeks now. I think this is our fourth event, and before Christmas we have one more event for you. We have a UK ZAS player versus a UK Italian player. Any guesses in chat who we've got coming on the show next week? I wonder who these players could possibly be. Could be absolutely anyone, but no, next week on the 10th of December, 10th of December, that is today. Next week on the 17th of December, we actually have a first to 10, Elf's own Neon versus Arpia, Airplane, Zasmain, Arpia, and this is going to be our final event to close the year off, and then we're going to be coming back in the new year with more first to tens, with more tutorials, and maybe even some bigger events, so watch this space. But for now, guys, catch us next week, 17th of December, same place, same time, for Neon versus Arpia Christmas special. But for now, peace out.